No one really knows how Gene Hackman spent his last day. No flashing cameras. No reporters swarming outside. No grand farewell from Hollywood, the same place that once made him a legend, then quietly pushed him aside. Just a quiet house in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, chose to spend the final years of their lives. And then, on a cold morning in late February, a maintenance worker showed up at Hackman's house. He knocked. No answer. When the door finally swung open, what he saw could have been the saddest scene Hackman had ever acted in. Except this time, there was no director, no script, just silence. Both Hackman and his wife were gone, quietly, without anyone noticing. But the story didn't end there. When details of Hackman's will became public, Hollywood was suddenly paying attention again. $80 million. Everything left to Betsy Arakawa. His 3 biological children from his first marriage? Not a single mention. Why? Why would one of the greatest actors of the 20th century leave his kids with nothing? What was hiding behind the 2 decades of self-imposed exile? No final curtain call. No farewell tour. Gene Hackman disappeared from Hollywood as if he had never existed at all, a name once worshipped, now barely whispered. But why? Why did the industry that once revered him let him walk away in silence? Gene Hackman didn't leave because he was old. He didn't step away from the spotlight because he was tired of the fame. He was forced out. Hollywood had no place for him anymore. The same people who once called him a legend had quietly turned their backs, letting him fade into the shadows. What made a man like Hackman disappear? Who decided he was no longer needed? And why, even in the face of oblivion, did he never look back? In front of a camera, Robert Duvall stared into the distance. His face was calm, almost unreadable. But in his eyes, there was something else, something that didn't quite have a name. A quiet sadness, a hint of regret, or maybe something even more complicated. He was the toughest son of a bitch I ever met, Duvall said. Not just on screen, in real life too. Gene Hackman wasn't just a great actor. He was steel, a former Marine, carrying that discipline into everything he did. But that same toughness made him an outsider. Some people like to be loved. Gene wasn't one of them. He didn't do parties, he didn't do interviews, he didn't give a damn about playing the Hollywood game. He showed up, did his job, and left. Maybe that's why he and Duvall were never really close, because they were too much alike. And maybe that's why Hollywood turned its back on him. Hackman was a symbol of an era that didn't apologize. He didn't just play characters, he became them. But at some point, Hollywood changed. It no longer had room for men like him. He wasn't easy to work with. He turned down scripts, no matter how big the paycheck. He had no problem looking a powerful director in the eye and saying, "I don't care how much you're paying me. If the script is garbage, I'm not doing it." Hollywood tolerated that when he was at his peak. But as time passed, they didn't need him anymore. The calls slowed down, the roles got smaller, the great scripts stopped coming. And then, one day, he was gone. No goodbye post on Instagram, no retirement speech at the Oscars. Just gone. Gene Hackman was never the warm and fuzzy type. He wasn't the guy everyone wanted to work with. He was blunt, to the point of being ruthless, never afraid to clash with anyone. On the set of The Royal Tenenbaums, he straight up called director Wes Anderson an idiot in front of the entire cast and crew. Bill Murray had to step in just to defuse the situation. That was the last time Hackman and Anderson ever worked together. Clint Eastwood once summed it up in one sentence: "Gene's a tough bastard. Don't mess with him." In a 2004 interview, Hackman admitted, "I was too hard on people. Maybe sometimes, too much." But even then, he didn't make excuses. He didn't ask for sympathy. That was just who he was. And maybe that's why Hollywood erased him. But Hackman didn't need a grand farewell. He didn't need a final film to say goodbye. He didn't need a tell-all memoir to remind people of his greatness. He just walked away. And that's exactly why his absence feels louder than any goodbye. Hollywood turned its back on him. But his performances? They're still here. His films? Still here. The characters he created? Still unforgettable. People forget red carpets. People forget awards. But no one forgets Gene
Mọi người
Hackman.
xem nhé.
Because Hollywood can erase a man, but it can't erase a legend. Hollywood will tolerate men like him as long as they make money. But when the tides shift, when fresher, more agreeable faces show up, men like Hackman become relics of another time. He saw it coming, and instead of waiting to be discarded, he walked away first. In 2004, after Welcome to Mooseport, he announced his retirement. No farewell tour, no emotional speeches, just one simple sentence in an interview. "I think I'm done." And just like that, he was gone. Love, family, and the unseen cracks. Gene Hackman married his first wife, Faye Maltese, in 1956. They had 3 children together, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie. But like many Hollywood stars, Hackman was never the ideal husband or father. Most of his time was spent on film sets, moving from one city to another, while his wife and kids stayed home, watching his life unfold from a distance. In a rare interview, Hackman once admitted, "I wasn't a good father. I wasn't there when they needed me." His first marriage ended in 1986. 4 years later, he married Betsy Arakawa, a pianist 31 years younger than him. Their life together was nothing like the chaotic years before. No more Hollywood madness. No more press junkets or red carpets. Just the two of them, living quietly in Santa Fe. And maybe, in those years, Hackman made the decision that would shape his legacy. In 1995, he officially named Betsy as the sole heir to his estate. No mention of Christopher, Elizabeth, or Leslie. No explanation. No revisions, not even as he got older. Was it guilt? Or had the father-child bond simply never been repaired? No one knows for sure, except Hackman. And now, he's gone too. February 2025. Betsy Arakawa passed away just 1 week before Hackman from a rare illness. According to estate law, if she had died more than 90 days before him, her assets would have gone to charity. But she passed only 7 days earlier, which meant everything still belonged to Hackman. And then, just like that, he was gone too. And in a strange twist of fate, the children he had left out of his will became his legal heirs anyway. His eldest son, Christopher, wasted no time hiring a top-tier lawyer to handle the estate. But maybe the real story wasn't about the millions they would inherit. It was about a father and his children, separated for far too long. Was this how Hackman wanted the story to end? Hollywood had turned its back on him long ago. But his legacy never faded. The French Connection, Unforgiven, Mississippi Burning, Superman. The films are still here. The performances still legendary. Proof that he wasn't just an actor. He was a force of nature. Hollywood may have forgotten him, but the audience never did. And maybe that's what mattered most. Gene Hackman lived on his own terms. He walked away from Hollywood when he saw there was no place left for him. He chose a quiet life with the woman he loved, and he left this world in silence. No big farewell, no grand tribute, no need for the spotlight. Maybe that's exactly how he wanted it, and maybe that's why, even in death, his story refuses to disappear.